was about operations, and we also talked about how we should examine the operations that we're currently farming out to third parties, to consulting firms and so forth, and perhaps bringing some of that work back in-house for the staff to perform, saving some of those consulting dollars.
That's an interesting point, Steve, because most times when you hear about efficiency in government, it's outsourcing it. Outsourcing it. What they're saying, that may be the case some places, but you may want to bring it back in other cases, because I remember years ago, Indianapolis went to a Unigov situation, and every service in the government was bid out. But the employees won most of the bids, the departments, because they knew the government the best. And so it is a very valid point. I know the study was just completed a few months ago, but was there anything you could implement in your budget for next year around the cost containment recommendations?
Yeah, I think there's several things that we're looking at. Obviously, we were lucky enough to have some good management practices in the past where we didn't have to raise the millage rate. But there's things that we're trying to do. One of the major things we did, John, and some of the stuff and things we talked about with management partners, is we took out a bond issue to refinance some of our debt, and that allowed us to do some of our capital projects at a cost that were probably 10% lower than they would have been when times were good. So we can help, spread those costs out over years, and we were able to get done twice the work, say, for roads. Muhlenberg Township has done more roads this year than they may have ever done, but still within our general fund budget, being able to handle that, because we knew that at this point in time we'd have many bidders, costs would be down. So it was one of the things where we helped plan some of those projects right away to borrow the money and pay off over time. That wouldn't impact us 5 years down the line when we needed to pave this road and we couldn't do it because there was no money. So those were some of the cost containment type things we did.
And one of the other things that we did was we started training some of the existing staff, providing some additional training to give them the tools to bring some of that work back in the house. And we're not necessarily going to do that in January or February, but over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll bring back a number of the building or code inspection type work back inside to existing staff.
And those are the kinds of things, again, the typical resident won't see.
Yeah. And the other point, John, I think is that with government, and I think, working with the city of Reading and the county of Berks have done and noticed at a large scale, is you have to bring in the right professionals anymore. And sometimes that may up front cost you a couple extra dollars. But as Steve mentioned, if you can eliminate, these hourly bills sometimes, or things you have to contract out because you don't have it in-house, maybe bringing someone in with the appropriate qualifications that has been very successful in the private sector can come in and help a government out tremendously. And we found that with many of our hires recently, that we went out and really went after qualified people that would help us bring some of that stuff in-house. So that was one of the things management partners helped tell us, is maybe you need to look at quality professionals for these jobs. So I think that's a point that we really are striving for.
And that, again, that's at times a tough nut to crack, because we look at the salaries and say, why are you paying such high salaries for some of these people? And yet they know the business, they know what to do. So we can cut costs, which are certain recommendations. I know another part of the study was whole area of revenue enhancement and economic growth. Were there specific recommendations they gave you for what you can do around the economic development, revenue enhancement?
Actually, they didn't delve a whole lot into economic development, but one of the things they did identify is that we don't have necessarily enough staff to provide enough time there. And there was also some other areas where they identified that we needed some additional staff's time. So they did recommend hiring another person in the business office. And the Board of Commissioners and I have been talking about this, and we're proposing an assistant manager be put on at some time in the future to help free up some of my time to go out and do more of the economic development things and shift some of the additional financial oversight and department oversight to the assistant manager.
We have so many, great properties in Muhlenberg Township, John, as you know, just sitting there. That's we still have to provide services around police, fire, things of that nature, and not getting any taxes. There's we always joke, or not really joke, or talk about there could be 1 million square foot of warehouse space out in Muhlenberg Township just completely empty. And we just need to have a dedicated resource to work with all the great organizations the county already has, with stuff like the Center for Community Leadership, the Berks Economic Partnership, the IDA. You know, there's so many groups that we need to have someone, because it's costing us not to have someone concentrate on that.
That's a good point. And yet, the one thing we're missing is that local structure. Because when we talk about it at the local level, who does it? Well, it falls back on the township manager, who's already overloaded with work right there. And so we don't have that staff person at the local level to do it. So that'd be a real plus to work with the county professionals.
Absolutely.
That'd be very good. In terms of the capital improvement program, did they make specific recommendations, or is that just a process to help you develop a capital improvement plan?
Well, actually, what they helped us do is gather all the information that we've amassed over recent years about outstanding projects that are there, and help develop, first of all, a process to rank these projects that the Board of Commissioners were very comfortable with on what should be ranked higher, what should be ranked lower, and then put the projects through this ranking tool and came up with they came up with about 35 projects overall, and it was with an estimated value over $30 million. And they ranked them in order according to the tool, and of course passed these by the board. The board made some adjustments and felt comfortable that this was a good list. This was the list that we should be working on, and adopted that into the capital improvement plan. Now, they also did another part of the plan that looked at major equipment purchases, which included things like fire trucks and larger pieces of public works equipment, as well as police vehicles, and also ranked some of those things out and looked at how they should be purchased over the next 5 years. So we have two long lists, and they're not really wish lists, but they are lists of priority projects that the board's had sitting on the shelf and now really took a look at and prioritized.
That's excellent, because unfortunately at this day and age, the federal and state grants are being cut back in many of these areas, which are a source of funding for some of that capital. But you mentioned the bonding. Is the township considering another bond?
I wouldn't think so. We kind of made the plan out where we could do a lot of the, I mean, out of the 30 some odd rankings, it was Road 1, Road 2, Road 3, you know, all the roads that need repair, and some of the larger items. So, you know, it's tough to say, you know, John, where we're going to go with it. I mean, we have so much stuff internally we have to push off. Our building, I mean, Muhlenberg Township's growing. We have how many police officers now, Steve?
32.
32 in Muhlenberg, and you know, we're outgrowing our building. We'll have to address that, but there's things we just have to sacrifice like everybody else does. So eventually, I think that's the way to do the financing. We've worked with some great professionals through the process. It's the first time Muhlenberg's been through it in a long, long time, if ever.
Very long time.
So I think that's the appropriate way to do it, because you let taxpayers who benefit pay over the course of time. And you know, you're buying a fire truck, John, now it's $1 million. We just bought one. It's, you know, you just can't, your general fund can't handle it anymore. So I don't think it's fair to charge taxpayer from 2010 something that the people in 2020 are gonna get.
That's a good point.
You know.
In the couple seconds we have left, is there any recommendation you would give other communities out there that are thinking about this in terms of long-range financial planning? Any advice you'd give them?
Well, certainly we found it very beneficial. First bit of advice would be call DCED and see what financial help they have or technical assistance they could provide. We don't know what shape that program's in since the recent budget was passed, and certainly state departments have taken many cuts. But we would say only go into this if you're going into this with an open mind and are willing to change, because this really pushes you towards change. They ask you to think different ways, and you know, if you're resistant to that type of thing, don't go there. But if you want change, you want to make improvements, certainly we found it very beneficial. We had a lot of good discussion, some heated, some not so heated, but we came out with over 100 recommendations in this plan, and a lot to work with.
That's great. So you got your work cut out.
Oh, most definitely.
Good luck. You got a great blueprint there. Hopefully it's a model for some other communities to follow, and we'll keep following and see your success.
Sounds good.
Steve Landis, Mike Malinowski, thank you very much.